Yep.
Yep, we can see.
Yeah, thank you, Rinku, for the introduction. Yeah, I used to work for Rightmove for 9 years, but now, yeah, right now I'm working in AmericanEagle.com. So yeah, let me start my presentation today. So my name is Gaurav. I'm a developer or architect working in AmericanEagle.com, which is Chicago-based company, and it is a Sitecore Platinum partner. So today I'm presenting with Jagdish. He's my colleague as well in AmericanEagle.com, and agenda will be this one introduction, create custom ribbon button in XM Cloud, Edge Webhooks, and Webhook management tool. So I'm going to start from the ribbons things. So what is ribbon? Actually, I think most people work with XMXP, so they all know these things. So I'll show the screenshot as well. So then I'm just showing you this is brief intro here. So ribbon is a primary toolbar located at the top of the Sitecore coordinator interface. So it's actually a combination of tabs, chunks, button, strip, everything. So what are the key component of ribbons? Like tabs, if you see home, configure, presentation, view tab, all are the tabs. Chunk. So if you go inside the home tab, you see many sections. So we also call them chunk, like insert, operation, sorting, those are the chunks. And in individual chunks, we have different buttons. So that describe the individual command element within the groups, which can be simple actions, drop-down menus, or dialog launchers. So if you see this screenshot, this will clarify more. So this whole is a ribbon in the purple. Okay, then this is the tab, home, navigate, review, the yellow. This is a tab, and inside the tab we see different sections. This is a section, this is a section. We call this chunk as well. And in every chunk we have a buttons like copy to, move to, delete, duplicate. These are the buttons. And in the home tab, this whole screen, this we call as a strip in the blue. So this is how like Sitecore names these things. So what we are going to do today, we are just going to add a new button here. So it used to be very difficult, not difficult, but time consuming in XPXM, but in XM Cloud, it's very easy now. So that I will show you today. So if you ever work with XMXP, you know, like adding a ribbon button used to be time consuming. Sometimes it could take 1 day, 2 day, or more. So for that, like the process was, you need to switch to core database, create a button item there, and configure a command in config. In config, like then you have to give the class name with the assembly name with the namespace. Then in that class, we need to write some code, what we need on that button, click and all, and then deploy the assembly and wait it to show up. And again, if we need to do something like some code change or some more functionality, then we need to go again and do some changes. If we need to see something logging, we need to do log things and deploy the things again. That is a quite time consuming thing. But now like in XM Cloud, it's very easy. So it's like plug and play. So in XM Cloud, we don't need to go to the core database. We don't need to do any config files. We don't need to touch any assembly. Everything we need is master database. So we just need to go to master database and create some PowerShell script. That's it. So this is how it's simple it is. And you can do whatever change you want anytime. You don't need to deploy anything. And like if you want to move it from one environment to another environment, there is CLI tool you can use. But if you can do it by packaging as well. So this is how simple it is. You don't need to take any help of any code file. So I'm going to show you in Sitecore as well. But this is how we generally create a PowerShell button. So in system we have like in Sitecore, sorry, we have a item name system. We have like content, media, template. We also have this system thing. That is mostly configuration thing. So in system, like when you go to script library under PowerShell, there is script library folder, and you can select module wizard. So you can select this module wizard. You can create it manually as well. So it's up to you. So you can go to here and click on manual. Sorry, module wizard, and then when you open this, it will ask you for a name. So you can put it any name. It doesn't matter. Here it will show you the option where this button is needed. So I added in the ribbon. You can also add in the context menu. I'll show you that as well maybe later. So these are two places I selected here. Then proceed. Then what it will do? The only thing like when you select that module wizard one, the only thing it will create every button or every chunk you see configure developer and like every chunk because what we need we just need to add this into review tab, but the only problem is that it will add into all the tabs. So what we need to do now, we need to keep this one and delete all these manually. That's not a big deal as well, but I'm just telling you, so you can also create manually as well. That's the only bad thing I'm just saying about this one. Otherwise it's very good. If you want to add buttons in existing chunk, then keep the chunk as it is. So you say in tab you have different chunks. So if you want to add your new button in a chunk that is already created, just to keep that and create your button in that. But if you want the new chunk, so under tab, just give it a name, anything you want. So I just made it a report. So it will create as a report as a new chunk here. And it will, you need to create a PowerShell script library template. Then inside that one, you need to create the main button that is a power that will be created by PowerShell script template. So you can name it anything, whatever you want. Again, like I will name it as a demo report, custom message, whatever you want. So that's it. That is the button. And in that button, it has an option of PowerShell logic. So you can put every logic, your logic there in the script body, and that's it. So it also has some options like when you want to enable it, when you want to show it. So there are some rules like show rules. That means like when you want to show this button, enable rules when you want to enable this button. I'll show you these everything in Sitecore. And then after that, you create that button. You need to do this thing only. You need to activate this new modules. For that, you need to sync the library. So to achieve this, we just need to go to PowerShell IAC and click on this rebuild or this icon and just click on sync library with content item ribbon. That's it. So no need to go anywhere, just everything inside for only. Okay. And then when you see it, you can see it like this one. Let me show you this inside core side here. So as I told you, can see side core screen, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yes, Gaurav. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then what you need to do, you need to go to system, then modules, and PowerShell. So here it is. This is a script library that we are doing here. So here, like I created with this name, demo reports. So here I created ribbon. This is a review tab, and this is a customer message. So if I click on this one as well, so you can see I just made it only like show alert, but you can write any logic here with the PowerShell if you want like to see like we created some revalidate page. We were working on one Next.js XM Cloud project and we want to revalidate the page. So we created a revalidate button here. We put every logic here. This is how it's simple. If we want to see like layout differences like in as side or side code side master side, so you can see difference. You can create any kind of button here and just put the logic here. This is very useful uh, tool. So here, like I just mentioned, alert button. So now you see this is visible here as well. Although we don't want this button and everything on everywhere, so we can control it by here. So you just need to go show rules and just put layout if the item has layout. That's it. So if you click on this one and save it, and you see it's gone. It's not visible anymore. Also, you can like enable it whenever it has layout as well. So these are the two rules, very simple rules. Now you see this, now you cannot see any button and all here. Now we want to see, you can go to anywhere, like home button that has layout obviously. So you see this button is visible. So this is how simple it is. So previously we used to go to, uh, code file and to show and hide. There was some separate code to do that, but now it's very, very simple. Everything you just need to know the PowerShell. That's it. And when I was telling you about the context menu as well, so it's the same like kind of structure. So structure need to be like you need to create very careful. So these naming convention need to be as it is, like content editor, ribbon, and this is a chunk name. So this and this is again like context menu. When you see context menu, I get the same kind of structure here. So when you click on this guy, particular item, and go to script, so you can see here as well. This guy is coming here because of this context menu. So if you want this on every item like this, right click as well. So you can need to create context menu. But if you want above here, then you need to create this ribbon. So this is how this simple it is. And that's it. That's it about the how to create button and everything. So if you guys have any question, we can take it later. But for now, I think I'll give it to Jagdish and he can present now. Over
Sure,
to you, Jagdish.
sure, Gaurav. Thank you. Let me share my screen. You know when you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
So it's like the GitHub repo, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me start. Okay. So back to slides. You guys
Correct.
see the experience Edge
Correct.
Webhooks
Correct.
slide. Okay, okay.
Correct.
Thanks, Gaurav. So yeah, thanks, Gaurav, and thanks, Neha and Rinku for this opportunity. So I'll be talking about Experience Edge Webhooks. Before we talk about Experience Edge Webhooks, like why do we need to talk about this? Like what is the importance of this, right? So as Sitecore continues to evolve, like especially with the move to XM Cloud and Experience Edge, the way we extend and customize this XM Cloud and Experience Edge also changed. So if you ever worked with the traditional Sitecore, you probably remember using those pipelines and processors. We used to insert those custom processors like before or after the default ones, or like we used to even replace them using some patch configurations, right? So it was all .NET based. We had full control over the execution order and access to pipeline logs, and everything ran synchronously within our backend code, right? But with the XM Cloud, the model is not really the go-to approach anymore. Why? Because the custom process really depends on the .NET assemblies, and in a XM Cloud, cloud native headless setup like XM Cloud, the main goal is to keep the backend code minimal and clean. So the more we can reduce those heavy customizations, the smoother the cloud experience becomes. Like with the less utilization of code and I mean less utilization of customization of the XM cloud, right? So now with no pipelines and process, what is the alternative? Right? The alternative is webhooks. Webhooks gives us a clean and decoupled way to hook into the events in the XM cloud, like without touching any backend code. Instead of injecting logic into the pipeline, we just need to subscribe an event. Then like Sitecore pushes the data to our external service and we can handle that however we want. So it's a complete shift from tightly coupled .NET customization to flexible integrations. And it's a better fit for today's composable architecture like XM Cloud. So that's why we need to talk about Experience Edge webhooks. And like before we go deeper, let's quickly understand what a webhook actually is, right? So a webhook is basically a way for one system to send real-time data to another system. It works by triggering an HTTP request. Like if there is any event occurs, an HTTP request will be getting triggered, and that processes the webhook. So think of it like this: Sitecore is saying like hey, something just changed, and here is the data you need, and Sitecore sends the directly to the target system like whatever we configure. So it how it works is it works for it listens for a specific event and then instantly triggers an action into a connected system. Like it can be anything. So I'll provide a simple use case like where we can actually use. So if you see this diagram, Sitecore publish is an event, and then as and when that event occurred, a webhook will be triggered, and that webhook can do like n number of operations. So here, it can clear the cache, and if there are any automation tasks. So in particular to XM Cloud, like one of the most powerful and practical way to hook into the Sitecore event is through these webhooks, and especially after the publish, as I mentioned. In fact, like webhooks are the only recommended way to run custom logic after a publish in XM Cloud. So there is no direct equivalent of pipelines or event handlers like we had in traditional Sitecore. Yeah, they are like ideal for automating post publish. Like if I take an example, like you did a publish, and if you want your search index to update automatically, so you can configure a webhook that can does this job, as and when publish is occurred. Or like, one of the most common use case, just like before Gaurav mentioned, like if we use that Next.js ISR with on-demand ISR, like the page will be cached, right? So clearing the cache or regenerating this page in this headless Next.js can be done by this. So as and when Sitecore publish job is done, we can take those items and then call that Next.js revalidate API to revalidate the cache of that page so that the page content will be updated. So that's the like one of the most used use case where we can use Edge webhooks. So if it go deeper into webhooks, so webhook actually provides couple of execution modes. Like one is on end and another is on update. So now I won't spend much time on end. Like, and to be honest, it we didn't. I mean, it's not that much useful. So as all it really does is like notify you that you publish a operation that has finished. Like it says, your publish operation is finished, but it doesn't give you any details about like what was published or what was changed. So it's fairly limited in terms of what you can actually do with it. And what's far more valuable is the on update mode. So with on update, you get detailed context. It tells you exactly what item was published and what's the path, what's the ID, and what is the item reference, etc. So I'll show you like what and all we get with on update. So if I go to next slide. Yeah, so this is the sample payload when we configure any webhook on update execution mode. So it gives you, I mean, the webhook payload can be quite large, like especially if you're publishing a lot of content. And in fact, it can include hundreds of items. And Sitecore sends this data in batches. Like if you have huge data, Sitecore sends this data to the webhook in batches. So if you see there is a flag called continuous, right? So if this is true, it means there are like more data coming. And once your system confirms it received the first batch, Sitecore sends the next one. And this will continue until the final batch. And once it reaches the final batch, the payload will have continuous flag false. And one of the most important parts of this payload is layout data. So this is what Sitecore sends when a page is published. And like if you see the layout data, it gives you identifier, entity definition, operation for each item, for each object. So when it comes to layout data, this is what Sitecore sends when a page is published. And the key is like, if you're like, again, if you're using Next.js with on-demand ISR, it allows you to tell your front end exactly which page to update or refresh based on the content that changed. So each page comes up with an identifier, and that includes your site name and path. If you see this identifier, so you can easily match it to your front end route, and so that you can just revalidate the cache. And other content types like regular items, templates, and use unique item IDs instead. Like you see this item has been in the publish operation, and the operation is update, and its entity definition is item, and entity definition is layout data, and this is item template. And this webbook also, the good thing about this webbook is it also tells you if a page has been deleted, which is just like important, because that way you can remove it from the front end or cache to make sure the users are not seeing not seeing outdated content. So these are the operations it gives you in the payload so that we can utilize them in the webhook process. And one thing to keep in mind is like, these webhooks don't fire instantly. Like even if your publish is marked complete in the Sitecore interface, this webhook might not show up for 3 to 5 minutes. And if it's a large data, it might take 15 minutes. So, just plan for a bit of delay in your automation if you're doing something. So that's about, on update execution sample payload. Right. So we talked about webhooks. Why do we need them, and what is the use of that? Right. So now let's talk about how we can manage these webhooks. So how we can create webhooks. So creating the webhooks. So to create the webhook, the first step is to create credential in your XM Cloud deploy environment settings. I'll show them all of them in the Sitecore instance, but let me talk about the slides, and then I'll jump back to Sitecore. So first we need to create the credentials in the XM Cloud deploy environment, and then we need to use those credentials to fetch OAuth token. And Sitecore Cloud, I mean, how do you get it? We can get from the Sitecore Cloud Auth endpoint, and then use that token to create webhook via admin API. So how do you create credentials? So like we need to navigate to XM Cloud deploy app, credentials, environment, and click credentials and environment. Select the environment, like provide the required information to generate the credentials, and it gives you client ID and client secret, and then copy them. So this will be useful. So so since we got client ID and client secret, so the next job is to get the OAuth access token, and this is the auth URL, and we need to post to this auth URL, and content type and body needs to be included audience, grant type, client ID, and client secret. So these are nothing but the values that we got from the XM Cloud deploy environment, and we get the access token response after calling this API, and then we will use this access token to create a webhook. Like this is the API URL to create webhook, post it, and authorization header is authorization and the bearer access token that we just received. And this is how we can, how do we create webhook? It needs a label, like what it does, and URL, like what is the URL, like what is your webhook URL, method, post, headers if you want to send any headers, body, and created by and execution mode. The same way, like update, you can just trigger this API URL which has ID, and you can update what is needed, and delete. So delete all the webhooks and everything. You can just provide the ID to the API URL, do a delete operation, and with the header authorization bearer token, you can do the delete. And the same goes with listing all webhooks, get webhook by ID. I'll show you all of them in the Postman, but yeah. So right, and so okay, now, so this managing webhooks, like create, update, delete, and see what webhook is doing and when it was ran last time, all this stuff. XM Cloud doesn't has any interface, so all it has to be done with the any API and API tools. So if I show you, let me just end this slideshow, and Postman. Let me just open Postman. Okay, so to configure the Edge webhooks, so what we need to do? So Edge auth token, right? So I mentioned like we need client ID and client secret. So from where we do get, so you go to XM Cloud. I mean, you are seeing my XM Cloud URL, right? Just to confirm.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So navigate to XM Cloud deploy app from the XM Cloud portal. Then you will see something called credentials. Go to environment, and then create credentials. Tick Edge administration. So here you put label, description, and project. Select the project you want to use for the Edge administration, and select the environment, whatever the environment you have. And then once you click on create, it will give you client ID and client secret, and we need them to work on those webhooks. So the second step, after getting the client ID and client secret, the second step is to create the auth token. So we need to call this endpoint and provide the JSON body with audience as api.sitecore.cloud.io. Grant type is client credentials. Client ID is nothing but the ID that we received from deploy app and the client secret that we got from the deploy app. So once we got everything, if you trigger if you trigger this call, this will give you bearer token, and we will make use of that bearer token to perform other operations. So now creating webhook. So to create the webhook, we need to call this endpoint, like it says Edge Sitecore Client IO API admin v1 slash webhooks. So you provide all your data like label, URL, what is the URL of your webhook endpoint, method post, any headers created by execution mode, and in the authorization, you will provide your bearer token, and that token is nothing but that you received from your Edge auth token endpoint. And then you click on send. It will create the Edge webhook, and yeah, so your Edge webhook is configured, and that will be triggered when any publishing operation is done. So to update the webhook, the same, you need to get your ID and change any content if you want, label or headers, whatever you can update. And then if you want to see the details of webhook, like when it was last run and was it successful, or is that webhook disabled, just to get to know the info on the webhook, we can utilize get webhook details by ID, where you can pass the webhook ID and it gives you all the information. So to manage all these things in the Postman, it's kind of difficult job. Like, every time you need to go get that auth token and, create the webhook. And, if you want to list the details of the webhook, you need to, get that ID and pass it to this endpoint. So these are kind of some, kind of a time consuming process, right? So that's where I came up with a tool where we can do all these operations in a single click in the Sitecore. So it's available in my repo. I'll share this link as well after this presentation. But what this does is it's just a simple PowerShell module, and this PowerShell module utilized what Gaurav has mentioned earlier in the presentation. The same concept where creating the chunk, creating the ribbon buttons, everything. So all we need to do is like you just take out this PowerShell module and install in the your Sitecore XM Cloud interface, and then do some configurations, and that's all. So let's walk through this. So you take out this PowerShell package, install it, and once you install, it comes up with a few items. Let me show you that. So if I go to System, Modules, PowerShell, Script Library, SPE, Edge, Edge. Yeah, it comes up, it actually installs these items in your instance. So ribbon, developer, Edge, you'll have these three PowerShell buttons like create webhook, list webhooks, and then you will see list view, ribbon, PS object, delete and update. I'll talk about these things. So once you install, you will see those items, and then you will see a template, modules, template system. There it was. Yeah, templates, modules, experience edge, auth settings. So there will be this template where you will have audience, grant type, client ID, and client secret. This template, as well as the other setting item where it is. Okay, it's in settings. Sitecore system settings, Edge API. You come to this settings item, and where you will have these four fields: audience, grant type, client ID, client secret. So audience, grant type is already configured. All you need to do is come to this item, Sitecore settings, Edge API settings, and then provide your client ID and client secret that we got from the XM Cloud deploy app. So that's all we need to do. So, and then once you're done with that, you go to your PowerShell ISE, like if I go this, once the module is installed, provided your client ID and client settings, then go to your environment, Power Developer Tools, PowerShell ISE, and this step is needed to resync the PowerShell buttons. Come to settings, go to rebuild all, and sync library with content editor ribbon. And what it does is it syncs your all PowerShell library buttons with your environment, and that's where it will be visible. So after doing this, then you go to your content editor, and if you don't have this developer tab enabled, right click on it and then just enable the developer tab and go to the developer tab, and then you will see these two items uh, under Edge, create webhook, list webhooks. So if you click on just create webhook, it opens up a form, then enter a URL, HTTPS, and it has to be HTTPS. Webhook only allows secured host webhook endpoint, so it has to be HTTPS. So say www.mysite.com demo webhook SUG. Provide some label SUG Jaipur demo webhook and enter method. It provides two methods like post and get. I mean, like get nothing more useful. So post headers. If you have any headers that you need to pass, uh, I mean that will be accepted, but by your webhook, just provide enter headers as key value pair, one per line. So I'll just say header value execution mode on update. And if it's on update, you can send some additional data along with your sample payload, so that you can just do in a JSON format. I'll just say key and then value, right? And if it's on update, then provide body include, and if it's on end, then don't provide body. So, and you will see this tooltip like provide JSON data here if execution mode is on end, but I'm taking on update, so I'll say click OK. It says done, view script results, webhook created successfully, and it just gives you some information. So your webhook is created. Now if I click on list webhooks, it will list all the webhooks that my environment has. So this is the webhook that I just created. It gives you your ID, label, the URL, what's the method, and what is the header value it is accepting. Then created by the current context user, when it is created, any body, and what's the execution mode, and then is it disabled or not. If like it says, I mean, after n number of attempts, like I think some 10 attempts, even though after 10 attempts, if your webhook is not actually ran, then it will automatically get disabled. So subject to correction, but I guess it's 10 attempts. So after those few attempts, it will get disabled. I mean, after let's say 10 attempts, so it looks for 10 attempts, that is it running properly or not. If it doesn't run 10 in 10 times, then the 11th time it won't run. So, and it will get disabled. So that's what disabled means. And when was the last run it was. So if you see the other last runs, it says timestamp is this one, is success is false or true, and message. So it gives you all the information about your webhook. And now let's say the other operation is if you want to update this webhook. So select this one and you see two options. One is delete, one is update. So let's say we want to update. Click on update webhook. I'll just change updated label and click OK. Webhook updated successfully. So then again go to list webhooks. Yep, you see, I just updated this text with updated and it is updated. So you can just change whatever the values you want. I just change label. So yeah, that's how the update works. And the last one is delete. And if you don't want any webhook to run next time, or else you don't want anything, you just want to delete that webhook, select the webhook and then click on delete. So the webhook got deleted. And if you go to list webhooks, the webhook that we just created is not there. So it got deleted. So all these operations like manage, you see, create, update, delete, and managing everything that can be done with this tool. So I think that's all. Any questions? Sorry, I think I should have taken a pause, but yeah, any questions? Okay, I'll take that as no.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, thank you, Gaurav and Jagdish, for the wonderful insight session. I appreciate your time and effort. We found it valuable and informative. I don't have a question to each of these, but I have one question to Gaurav. So while adding a button in ribbon, you talk about that show rule and edit rule, right? So that will be used to show and activate the button. Here my question is that can we use a custom rule as well there? Like we
Yeah,
use.
so yes, so whatever rule you can create, it will show up here and you can use it like that. Yes. Right now, I've just used it like the one that is already exist here. So yeah, if you
Mhm.
need anything, but in XM Cloud, like you should do very, very less customization, but you can do it.
Okay, so for adding a new custom rule, are we use like a traditional XM and XP, or for that
Yes,
also we
the
use
same.
another PowerShell script?
No, no, it's the same thing. To add the rules, you need to do same thing.